Hello again, Harvey from Echo here, and I'm here with you today to show you a video on what I believe are the 10 most important things you must know for Ableton, and things you also may not know, which you will definitely find useful out of this video. So before I get into every single tip that I'm going to show you, I'd just like to make a little mention and say that if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, trust me, it's worth it. They've got loads of awesome content coming out that I've seen that's going to be really useful, and they're really going to do you a good favor watching them. So go ahead and click a subscribe button and see what videos we got coming out. Press the little bell icon, meaning that every time we get a new video out, you'll be able to see it straight away, be the first in the batch. But without any ado, let's get straight into it. Okay, so the first tip I'd like to give is creating fades and crossfades with a shortcut. Now, the concept of this is basically if you have two or more sounds that you'd like to crossfade together or just quickly add a fade on, it's quick, easy, and saves you seconds and many mouse clicks. So I'm just going to get up two random kicks just to kind of show you like a way of, so that's quite a long one, a way of how you can actually merge the two. Now, let's say we just want to have the punch of this, and then eventually let's take the sound of this. Now, obviously, if we just play them, it's pretty rubbish. So what you want to do here for this tip is you want to select the section that you would like to crossfade together. So I'm just going to select these two regions, see these three regions here, sorry, and then you click Command, Alt, and F, and it makes a crossfade for them, as you can hear. Now this also works for other sounds. For example, if you don't want the punch of this, you just want the tail of it, you can do that. So if you select the region that you'd like to fade in or fade out, Command, Alt, F, and then you can drag it from there. It's just a quick way in which you can just add a quick fade and just actually, improve the workflow and work rate of what you're working at. So the next tip I'm going to show you is the importance of freezing. And the tip exactly is freezing for CPU and how you can get the audio out of that without flattening. So I've just got a little sort of thing here. Nothing too incredible, and it's definitely not taking up hardly any CPU. If it is, you should probably get a new computer, no offense. But what we can do here is we can freeze it so we can just hear the audio, but we won't be able to play with this. And what this does, it saves CPU usage because it's just rendering the audio. It's not actually having to resynthesize the sound. So the way you do this is you right click on the track and then click freeze track. And it'll take a small time or a long time to load depending on how long your track is or how long the MIDI clip is. And we can still play it. We can't actually go in and edit the notes or add any notes or anything. However, if you actually want to extract the audio from this and either delete this, you could flatten it. However, that's quite long. So what I do is I create a new audio track that you want to lay it down on, and then you select the regions. So hold Shift and then click both of them. And then you hold Alt and click and drag down. And this basically makes the audio, as you can hear. So my third tip that I'd like to give is what I call hot swapping samples. And it's also what Ableton calls it. So let's, just as an example, get some kicks up and a sort of kick variation that we like. Pretty trappy. Now, say for example, we've got this sort of kick arrangement going on. We like the sort of arrangement of it, I think it sounds pretty cool. However, it's the actual sound that we don't like. Now, you can actually change the sound of this without having to drag in a new drum and actually make the same drum group and recreate it. You can actually just copy straight from this. Now, the way you do this is you go to View, and then you go down to File Manager, and that brings up this little, or this big box around here. Now, the way you change the sound here is you click Manage Set. And then it opens up this little view here, which means you view files, and it shows you the files that you're using. So we're using 04 Trap Kick, Industry Kick. Now what you do here is you click on that, make sure it's the right sound, and we've used the right sound here. So then you click this little button here, and it turns orange, and it says Hot Swap Mode. And all you do is you find the kick that you like, maybe that or that, and then you just press Enter, and there you go. So the fourth tip that I believe is incredibly important when using Ableton is shortcuts, and especially the shortcuts I'm going to show you are mostly for navigation, so getting your way around Ableton so you know exactly how to do it quickly and save you a million mouse clicks. So they all start off with the same two key commands, which is Command and then Alt. So the first one I'm going to show you is how to get rid of this bottom bar, and that is Command, Alt, and L. Now, a lot of these key commands sometimes don't make sense, like with what keys are used, but it's just really worth going through them and actually practicing them. When I first heard them, I was a bit skeptical, but I, powered on through and tried to learn them, and they helped me so much. I use them all the time. So that's Command, Alt, L for the bottom bar. Now, the next one is the Finder bar, and that is Command, Alt, B. So you can get rid of the bottom bar and the Finder bar, so it just makes the screen a lot bigger, but we want to make it even larger and even more easier to look at. So the next one is the return tracks, so you can hide them with Command Alt R, which is a bit easier to remember, R standing for returns. So yeah, so that's Command Alt R. The next one is the mixer, so where it says the inputs here, Command Alt M, which is easier to remember, M standing for mixer. And then the last one will actually be the overview up here. So this is where, for example, if you want to zoom in on a part of the track or see exactly where the different colored clips are, it takes up some space, Command Alt O. And that's pretty much the best tips to show you to get around and make the screen a lot bigger. The last one also is Command Alt and I, so that gets rid of the inputs, as you can see. Those are all ones that I use quite a lot, just if I want to, I need to quickly find something, or put in an effect, Command Alt B to get out the Finder, whack in something, cool, and then get rid of it, and I'm back in the tune. It's these shortcuts that really help navigation and get through a tune a lot easier. Okay, so the fifth tip that's really cool in Ableton that I absolutely love is you can actually put in stems from older projects. So, for example, I use this with templates especially. So, say for example you've got an older project and there's a drum track in that you love and you think, oh, I could really use some of the kicks and stuff from that in this new project. You can literally just drag that stem straight from the project and whack it straight in your new project. Now, I do this with templates especially because I find that I don't want to open up the whole template and get rid of all the progress I've got, but I like the processing or the something that I did in that template. So the way you do that is you go to the Finder on the left hand side, so open it with Command Alt B as we mentioned earlier, and then select whichever project you've got going on down here. So I'm just going to go into my templates folder, and for example the one I would use is I don't know, let's say post-rock template, and when you press the right key it opens up, or you can press the little arrow here and it shows you all the different stems that I've used. So say for example I want to use the drum kit that I usually use. All I have to do is drag it into the project, and when I double click on it, you can see that it's loaded up the addictive drum kit that I usually use, etc. And it's all there. And it's as simple as that, and you can do that with any project, and it's even got the MIDI clips that I've used in the previous projects. So the sixth tip I'd like to show you are automation curves. Now, if you've used Ableton from maybe an intermediate level, you'll know about automation and what it can actually do and help your sound. And what I'm going to show you is how you can actually perfect those curves, those different automation points. So I'm just going to whack on a filter on here, and say I want to show the automation for frequency. So that's right click the frequency knob and then show automation. Now it comes up here. So I'm just going to get rid of these two panels there. Now, say I want the filter to, sort of start up here and then filter down, and then maybe do like quite a sharp peak there, except I want it not to be so static like that. I want it to be a bit smoother and a bit more controlled. Now, the way you can do a curve is you hold down Alt, and it comes up, the mouse changes, so you can see the mouse has got a little sort of dimple or curve around it, and then you click on the line that you wish to curve, hold it, and then push up to curve up or down to curve down. So you've just basically got more of an indent curve, whereas that's more of like a bigger sort of wider curve. And you can do some awesome curves with it and make it a lot more precise. So without. So just pretty boring. This got a bit more control, a bit more character I find as well. So the seventh tip I'd like to show you is how you can properly fine-tune with any parameter. So for example, I've just got an example, I've just whacked that sort of bass bounce that I had just in a sampler to show you an example of how if you push up a parameter, sometimes it doesn't do it from 1 to 2, it skips some numbers. So for example, on the attack, I've got 17.2 milliseconds of attack, and then when I just bump it up 1, it goes up to 19 milliseconds. Now I'm going to show you exactly how you can get the numbers in between 17.2 and 19. So if you hold Command and then click and push up or down, you actually go through a lot more precise, and you've got a lot more control over what numbers you want to choose, instead of just kind of skipping through them like that. You actually got a lot more control. And that one I find really useful if you want something really precise to find a sweet spot in a sound, or maybe in some sound design sort of skits. So the 8th tip I'd like to show you is the track follow key command, and that's just what I call it. So when you're playing a song, and say you're zoomed in quite a bit to see the different sections of a song, let's imagine I've got sections of a song here, you can see the play indicator just passed right past this section here, past the MIDI tracks, and you can't ever see it again, unless you've got the overview look up here, as you can see. However, if you press play, so you just use spacebar, and then you press Command Shift F, it actually follows the play indicator. Okay, so the 9th tip I want to give you guys is something I like to call section automation. Now, section automation is when you encounter the problem where there's a part of an audio file or an automation lane where you want it to be full on just a certain amount of automation, but you don't want to have to kind of like do all this and then sort of draw it in, etc. Say I've got this filter on and it's at 70 hertz, so sounds like that, and maybe in this section I want it to be just at like 200 hertz, but just for that section. I don't want to have to sort of automate up to that and then kind of do it down and have this fade. You can literally just highlight a section, and then once you've got the automation selected here, if you hover down so it's a blue line, as you can see, it's within the boundaries of what we selected, and then you click on the blue line and pull up to whatever frequency you want. And as you can see, if you watch the frequency down here, it just skips straight to it. Okay, so the last tip that I want to give you, the 10th tip on what you must know for using Ableton, is using and saving your own effects racks. So especially if you're making something that's quite production heavy in Ableton, you'll be using a lot of different effects, and maybe you'll be using a lot of different chains. And say you've made a certain bass that's got sort of some autumn filters and some autumn sort of chain effects going on, and every time you want to use this idea, you don't want to have to keep recreating it, because I've done that many times before I figured out you could actually save racks. And that's the tip, is save the audio effects racks and chains that you've made. So I've got a couple here where when you click on the Finder window in Audio Effects and then Audio Effects rack, these are a couple of the racks that I've made myself. So I've got things just various from transient control. So if I want to affect the transient, so the attack and sustain of something, I've just made something from that. And all it is a case of is you go to Audio Effects, then you double click Audio Effects rack, so it makes an Audio Effects rack. And say you want it to have a compressor, an EQ, and then like, I don't know, a delay on it or something. You just drag these inside, so shift and then click them all, whack them in, and then click save, and say you want to save it as, I don't know, say tutorial example, and then literally it's a case of, oh, I want to put this rack on my bass. You just drag it on and it's all there. Okay, so those are the 10 most important tips that I found really useful, especially using Ableton. If you did find them useful, please like the video, and also comment if you feel that there was something else that you feel is important for Ableton, and to know, and for other people to know, and maybe, who knows, you'll be teaching us a thing or two. Also, if you did like this video, please remember to subscribe or click the bell icon to get notifications every time a new video comes in. There's some really awesome stuff, so make sure you click the subscribe button. Brill, thank you very much.